I Hate the News is the weekly news bulletin from I Hate Politics podcast, a show about a human activity we love to hate. I am Sunil Dasgupta. The week of April 16th, 2024, picking lawyers to file lawsuits in the Keybridge collapse. MCPS introduces tougher safety measures, but at what cost? And an analysis of a new tree canopy report for the DMV. Music for this episode comes from Baltimore area jazz musician Seth Keibel's album Clarinet Flicks and Chill. Keibel on clarinet, flute, and tenor saxophone, Ellington Carthan on piano and keys, Christy McDonald on the electric guitar, Elliot Seppa on the double bass, and Joey Antico on the drums. You can find their music at sethkeibel.com. The elections for the Montgomery County Student Member of the Board of Education are April 17th. If you have secondary students in MCPS, they are eligible to vote. Let them know. Remind them. If they want to hear the candidates speak, we have interviews with both SMOB finalists, Sam Ross and Praneel Suvarna, which came out 2 Fridays ago. Last week, we wrapped up the 2024 annual session of the Maryland General Assembly. Per normal practice, the Department of Legislative Services has issued a comprehensive report of the session called the 90-Day Report. If you want to go beyond the I Hate Politics episode, you can find the link to the 90-Day Report in the show notes. One crucial aspect of the Keybridge response to come out of the session is that the legislature gave the Maryland Attorney General the authority to sue several defendants to recover losses from the collapse of the Keybridge. This will likely consolidate lawsuits. The city of Baltimore has further hired Philadelphia-based attorney Jeffrey P. Goodman, who successfully recovered damages in the lawsuit against the owners of the Surfside building, which collapsed in Miami in 2021. Lloyd's of London, which ultimately insures the Dali shipping container ship that struck the bridge, causing it to collapse, expects damages to be in the single-digit billions with a B. In response to our wrap-up episode, where we referred to the end of the General Assembly session as sine die, we were sent this lesson in Latin.
Hey, Sunil. It's former podcast guest Jonathan Robinson. Before I was a resident of District 17 in Rockville, I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I took Latin at Walnut Hills High School, go Eagles, from grades 7 to 10, which is actually one more year than you're required to. So I'm not a Latin speaker and haven't dusted off my Virgil and Aeneid in a while, but I do know that when people talk about the end of the legislative session in Annapolis and they say sine die, that they're wrong. That's not how it's pronounced. It's pronounced sine die. Literally, sine means without, die means day. It's pretty similar actually to carpe diem. Get it right. It's sine die, not sine die.
Thank you, Jonathan. We love hearing from you when we get things right, but even more when we get things wrong. Sending us a voice letter is easy. Record on your phone and email it to producer@ihbpod.org. Be sure to include your name and where you live, and try to stay within a minute. Like many other local school districts, Montgomery County Public Schools is taking enhanced school safety measures, including more video surveillance that includes hundreds of new cameras at elementary schools, close monitoring of areas without cameras, including restrooms, locked doors and vestibules, ID monitored entry and egress, new vape detectors, metal detectors perhaps, or scanners, but also stronger disciplinary action against those that break rules. Last week, the current student member of the Board of Education, Sami Saeed, publicly berated school district officials for slow-walking security measures. What is challenging about security is really that it is best achieved by engaging students and the community. This is especially true when it comes to safety from online bullying, which is a big concern among students. But MCPS appears to be taking a more policing approach, surveillance, access control, and disciplinary action, which historically have disproportionately hit low-income and minority students. Indeed, ID-controlled and monitored access creates a fortress out of a school building, rather than building a community hub. Teachers and students find it hard to go outdoors for community-based learning. And fewer community members will want to go to school unless absolutely necessary. When my oldest was in kindergarten, first and second, I'd inevitably just walk through the hallway, take a quick peek into his classroom. Michelle Obama writes in her book that her mother, fed up with the goings-on in her third grade class, pulled a handful of kids and installed a new teacher in a new classroom. That kind of community access is simply impossible to imagine. Even a walk-by is out now. Obviously, the first job of schools is to keep students safe. But if we know that engaging students and the community is the best way to do that, what is the cost of the policing approach? Not far away at the University of Maryland in College Park, computer scientists have designed an ugly sweater that can defeat AI surveillance tracking. Scientists believe that adversarial patterns on clothing throws off artificial intelligence code, opening the possibility for a cloak that confers AI invisibility. The Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments is calling on local jurisdictions in the region to expand tree coverage. Data collected by the Chesapeake Bay program shows that the tree canopy in the region, which determines the ecological health of the bay, reduced by 17,133 acres between 2014 and 2018. That's just less than 1% of the total land area in the region, which is about 2.3 million acres. One thing to keep in mind is that 2018 is the last year for which we have comprehensive data. Researchers estimate that the region has lost another 1% of tree cover since 2018. 1% every 5 years or so, 2014 to 2018, and then 2018 to 2023. That is alarming. It is even more concerning if you consider that the period between 2018 and 2023 included the pandemic years, which likely saw less building activity. So, what should we attribute this to? Comparing tree canopy numbers across the local jurisdictions can be instructive. Turns out that Maryland jurisdictions lost more tree canopy than Virginia jurisdictions. The biggest losers were both in Maryland, Prince George's and Montgomery counties, which lost 2.3 and 1.9% of tree cover, respectively. Montgomery's tree cover is now 46.7%, and Prince George's tree cover is at 52.1%. In contrast, Frederick County tree cover used to be 42.5% and has gone up to 43%, and it is the biggest winner in the region. Frederick is the fastest growing Maryland county according to the 2020 census. While it has been denuded in the past, it seems to be making a sure comeback. Prince William County in Virginia, which has the second most tree cover in the region at 57.1% of its land area, lost about half a percentage point, and it was the third biggest loser. Loudoun County was fourth biggest tree canopy loser. Charles County, Maryland has the most tree cover of all the region, and it had marginal losses. Fairfax County, Virginia, which follows at number 3 for the most tree cover, also had small losses. What does all of this tell us? First, the tree canopy story starts 20 years prior to when the data is collected. That's how long it takes for a tree to be big enough to become part of the canopy. So for the data starting 2014, start looking at land use and forestation policy in 1994. And if you do, you will see almost all the county jurisdictions in the region were rapidly clearing forest land for housing in the mid-1990s. Second, it seems that Frederick and Prince George's counties were in very different places, and consequently, they balanced development and environment differently. Frederick, whose economy used to be agriculturally driven, has less tree cover to begin with. Prince George's tree cover was second only to Charles County in all of DMV. It seems Frederick had a more robust tree planting policy in the 1990s as it opened to development, and that is what is showing up in the 2014-2018 data. Third, what is puzzling is that tree cover management in both Prince George's County and Montgomery County are in the hands of the Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning Commission and its county planning departments. The county governments set general policy, but Parks and Planning, as the bi-county agency is called, oversees, manages, and coordinates forest conservation policy with the Chesapeake Bay Program and the Council of Governments. Lastly, the Council of Governments has set a new standard of at least 50% tree cover across the region by 2050. This means that Montgomery County has to expand tree cover by 4%. That works out to 12,000 acres. A new county forest conservation policy improves replanting requirements, but it is unclear where the extra 12,000 acres of tree canopy would come from, unless there is a plan to convert some of the agricultural land in the western part of the county back into forests. Prince George's, meanwhile, could potentially cut 2% of its forest land and still remain within the standard. The cities in the region, including Washington, D.C., have much lesser tree cover than the counties and are unlikely ever to reach the 50% level. So the outer suburbs, and in particular Charles County and Prince William County, have to pick up the slack. Outer suburb counties, including Frederick and Loudoun, also have big lifts to get to 50%. The target set by the Council of Governments adjusts according to population density. Meanwhile, Governor Westmore has announced a housing affordability crisis in Maryland. Not building or building single-family homes, which tends to preserve tree canopy better, are not choices that help the cause of affordability. If you are wondering about where the balance between the environment and development lies, or how best to address climate change, consider this. On the podcast, some eons ago, I reported out a very unofficial survey of my Facebook friends on this question. Would you cut trees around your house to be able to put solar panels on your roof? The question really was about whether they valued the benefits of the trees more or less than they valued the importance of switching energy sources. Over 300 people responded, and out of the 300, 4 said they would cut trees. In reality, as the Chesapeake Bay Program's tree canopy data shows, we are cutting trees with greater alacrity than we care to admit. Maybe just not those that are close to our homes. That's all for this episode. Be sure to tune in here at I Hate Politics this Friday for our big feature interview. I Hate Politics is produced by me, Sunil Dasgupta, and assistant producers Daniel Gallio, Katarina Gasek, and Catherine Amaya Escobar, with support from University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I direct UMBC's political science program at the universities at Shady Grove in Montgomery County, where, among other things, we explore and learn about politics, government, and society close to home. Music for this episode comes from Baltimore area jazz musician Seth Keibel. The songs are from his album Clarinet Flicks and Chill. If you want to share your music on the show or know someone else who might want to, please email us at producer@ihppod.org. See you next time.